Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. The week of February 10th, 2025 opens up with the moon in the sign of Cancer. We are in the waxing moon cycle, and the full moon will happen midweek, so I'll be talking about that in a few minutes. But right now, what's going on is we are moving towards the culmination of that full moon energy. And what a full moon is asking us to do is to integrate whatever the information is that's coming at us with that full moon. So right now in this waxing moon cycle, which was kicked off by the new moon Aquarius happening at the onset of the Chinese New Year of the wood snake. So this first full moon of that year, or energetic year rather, because it's not the first full moon of the calendar year. Regardless, it is shining, the full moon will shine with the light of the Aquarius sun. So here we are with the moon in Cancer on Monday. And it goes void of course at 8:49 a.m. Eastern Time. So when the moon is void of course, which it is for a few hours, it means that we're not having the emotional glue that usually carries through something that's begun or launched or discussed. So in general, with void of course moon times, astrologers recommend you work on things already in progress, organize, purge, clean up your desk. You don't want to have any discussions that are hoping to cement a deal, shake hands, follow through, because often they don't, because the moon is void of course. There's not that emotional charge that has the connectivity that has us carry through with things. So sometimes what people do is they use this for when they're kind of meh, I don't really care about the outcome of this, or it's something I have to do, and we'll just make it happen and then move on. So you choose. It's the morning, essentially, at 12:01 p.m. The moon enters the sign of Leo. And then we are moving towards that culmination of the full moon energy. Now, this particular full moon is, well, one of the things that it's inviting us to do is really look at how we communicate and build bridges with neighbors, siblings, people who basically affect the routines of our lives to some degree, but not necessarily in a work routine, although that can be. But the ideal is that we are expressing ourselves within community, and community is seeing us for what we're bringing to whatever that building within community is. And so this day, the afternoon of Monday the 10th, and going into the 11th, as we approach that full moon that happens on Wednesday, we are in process of, for those of us who are, paying attention or needing to work that muscle more, we are in process of what is our self-expression within that community that is unique to us. And so we are doing something that lights up the energy that's about our star power. And this can be very quiet, depending on the person. It can be very exuberant, very look at me, depending on the person. But we all have, Leo, every sign is somewhere in our horoscope makeup. So one of the things that means is that it reminds us that we all have the same celestial DNA. And really, we all have the same intrinsic quality of how we're made up as human beings, just for deviations of gene sequence and how this stuff is put together makes each of us an individual. But the core material is the same. And in today's world, where if you look at the news or you hear messaging, everything seems to be about how we're not the same, how there's these big differences, and we need to keep away from certain groups, or there's no reconciliation, or some groups of people are more important or more valuable than others. And yet the reality is, if someone is in dire straits, has an accident, ends up in surgery, needs a certain blood type, it doesn't matter who that person is if there's that connection from the donor that can save another person's life. And this is the shaking into awareness that some people have when they're totally thinking that other people are not like them for some reason. And we are radically different in many ways. But this particular full moon is inviting us to look at, how do I express my unique quality, my creative self within the community? What is my contribution? And some people, believe their contribution is to be antagonistic and different and not a part. And I'm not saying one is bad or good. I'm simply saying that looking at the dynamics of this full moon, we may see a lot of disharmony, but within that kind of dissonance, there can be communication. It can tease out or start a dialogue or create vibrations that can allow some kind of awakening. Now, what's happening on Tuesday the 11th is there's a picture in the sky between Sun and Uranus, which is challenging. It's what we call a square configuration. And this happens mid-afternoon Eastern time. And so it can show, like, boom, some sort of reckoning, attention-getting, blow-up, out of the blue, surprise, where there's posturing to be heard. And this it almost seems to me, as I'm looking at this week and how it's set up, that the early week, it's as though someone tosses an idea, a thought, I don't want to say a bomb, but something that comes in that just blows up the conversation. Now, hopefully it's not violent, but That's not hard to imagine, again, in today's world. It can also be something that happens in a earth event capacity, which brings attention in a very incendiary way and starts a dialogue, argument, posturing. I mean, this can be big indications here. And yet it can also be within a family, within a community, within a neighborhood, within some people having discussions that seem diametrically opposed or totally without ability to reconcile. But part of what I see as the plus in this energetically is something may be heard, revealed, realized that has been either not looked at or not valued or not considered, that really needs to be looked at, considered, and understood in order to really create better dialogue. So this full moon is a bit tense. I mean, full moons by their nature, and especially people who are very lunar-oriented, Cancers, people who are born with strong sun-moon configurations, either the full moon, the new moon, quarter moon, oftentimes moon rising or on the midheaven on an angle. Oftentimes these people are they're aware of the lunar cycles, even if they don't know about them. They know that their moods shift. They feel very hooked in to cycles. And so it can be very useful for people who feel that to really clock where the lunar cycle is, because then there can be greater awareness. Oh, it's going to be a full moon. I'm going to be particularly sensitive, volatile, maybe have trouble sleeping. I mean, our cats are usually bouncing off the walls during full moon time. And animals, they're more hooked in to the celestial movements, eclipses, things like that. They feel it. They're much more connected to our biological world. And human beings, many of us have lost that connection, which is why actually we're so endangered. Because the less connected we feel to the earth, her cycles, our responsibility as stewards, and our honor to be working in tandem with what she needs to do energetically, that bodes better for our survival than the hubris of thinking, oh, we can just control it, ignore it, or all go live on Mars. Anyway, so this full moon that happens on Wednesday the 12th is exact at 2:12 p.m. Eastern Time. And that may be kind of the apex, especially for people who are feeling this kind of tension. Some of the people who may be feeling it more acutely, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, especially people born later in those signs. But what this all means is that we are hitting this point where we have the ability to understand better how we're communicating clearly or how we're missing the mark. And if we're not communicating clearly, because think, the divine child, Leo energy in its greatest celebration, reminds us that, well, it's the analogy, there's so many myths connected to this. Christianity, of course, is connected to this. The divine child being born and promising rebirth and hope. So every child who's born, every human being comes in with this energy that is about light, creativity, which is why it's so valuable to support, nurture, educate, and grow our young. These are our most valuable resource, other than water, which of course is, we all need water. That's our most valuable natural resource. But children being neglected, not educated, not fed, and of course we're seeing this explode on the planet now since USAID has been pulled back, and I'm not going to go too much down this road, but these are the things that really blow up as we're looking at this particular full moon coming forward. And the thing to remember about a full moon is it's always about integration. So if you're feeling a lack of being seen within community, then it might be time to think about how you can express yourself more effectively within that community. And it may be quiet, like one-on-one, and then that enables you to stretch into the larger. It may be expressive through a visual or song or some other way of messaging. And consider that if you're not being heard, if that's part of what's going on, then how could you be heard? And then the reverse, of course, is if you're having difficulty receiving, then what can allow you to be more receptive to what that community is offering, presenting, or sharing with you? So that's the full moon, and some insight can come in also knowing where it falls in your horoscope, where you have Leo, where you have Aquarius, and that can be the areas of life that is particularly lit up at this time of the year for you when the moon is in the sign of Leo, or reverse in the sign of Aquarius at the full moon. So the moon goes void, of course, as I said, at 2:12 p.m. And then it's void until the early evening, 8:07 p.m., when it enters the sign of Virgo. Now, the piece here is that if you're feeling like you were not getting anywhere prior to the exact point of that full moon, then that late afternoon into early evening can provide you with more like ability to go over, process, consider what's going on with it. And then when the moon enters the sign of Virgo, you can roll up your sleeves and work on it a little more. The piece that's important to consider over the next couple of days with this Virgo moon energy is we are now in the waning moon cycle. So ideally, we have learned whatever it was we were building towards, and now it's more about implementation, adjusting, seeing where we can correct or modify something. Obviously, some things are still in process. It depends what the project is or the conversation or what we're trying to get off the ground. But this time when the moon is in the sign of Virgo, there's a little contrast here, because what happens when the moon's in Virgo is, and this can be emphasized depending on your personal astrology, is many people want to work at something. They want to hone it or do something therapeutic or busy themselves with a task or quietly work on something, or just get very hung up on what isn't perfect or right or the way they'd like it. I think with this particular indication going on with what's going on with the Virgo moon at this time is it's asking us to tap in, to go within, meditate, deepen into an experience, and then pull out to wider view. So the Achilles heel of Virgo, and each sign has its immense pluses and points of great expression, and the other side, which can be just the getting caught in the negative spin or the lower manifestation of the energy. And that doesn't always mean that it's necessarily bad, but we do want to move through the arc of what each sign teaches us so that we can catch ourselves or understand when we're in this place that maybe is not as productive as when we're moving along to places of greater stretching and understanding of whatever the energy teaches us. So with Virgo, there can be a tendency to be very tunnel visioned and wanting to focus on the one thing, and like almost a dog with a bone, or this is not going out in the world until it's absolutely perfect. And obviously there are points when that is very valuable, and then there are points when it's just a snare that's keeping us trapped because deadlines happen. We need to release. We can totally miss the boat because we're so focused on what we look like before we go to, the launch pad. So this particular time is asking us to, focus, look at what needs to be addressed. That's important. And then make some decisions about what the priorities are. And this is especially highlighted on Thursday the 13th, because there can be this sense of overwhelm. There's so much. What is it that I want to focus on now? And if we don't, outline and prioritize, then we totally miss all the opportunities, or don't get to deliver or succeed in the things that are most important because we've gotten unraveled by all this minutia. By the time we get to Friday the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, interesting, Valentine's Day has a Moon-Saturn challenge opposition in the morning. And I think one thing this reminds us of, especially people who are born with Moon-Saturn challenges, the squares, the opposition, the conjunction, is we may often feel like there's not enough, or a sense of lack, or some self-deprivation, or we're just not being considered the way others are. And if any of us wake up in the morning and are feeling that, remember, to me, one of the most important things about Valentine's Day is that it's a day of love, and it's a reminder that we want to appreciate the people we love. I mean, I live in Mexico. Valentine's Day is a very big deal because it's not just about romance and lovers. It's about everyone you love, friends, parents, children. So everybody's getting treats and hugs. It's amable. I mean, it's just the day of really appreciating the vibe of amigos and the joy of a society that relates to other people. So we can't really hit that high vibration of it if we're missing one of the most intrinsic parts, and that's about self-love. So especially with the moon in Virgo, be kind to yourself today. Give yourself some slack. If you're a person who has an inordinate sense about showing up, saying the right thing, self-critical streak, catch yourself, love yourself, hug yourself, because the odds are you're doing it so much more amazingly than someone who just blurts in front of the room how wonderful they are and really doesn't do anything. Not that that person doesn't deserve love too, but I think this Valentine's Day is basically saying, embrace yourself. Embrace what's wonderful about you and even what you'd like to shift or change, and be kind to yourself. The interesting thing is, coming off that full moon in Leo, and I had been talking about the divine child and how we all come in with this light and unique way to shine, and how everyone ideally should be appreciated, fed, loved, cuddled, and educated. That's the ideal. And society in a lot of countries falls short of that. And so Valentine's Day, just give yourself a hug and share that love. And the piece I think that is really important to remember here, and it's hard, it's really, really hard to send out the love and feel connected to the people in the world, the creatures, the beautiful world we live on, the solar system and beyond, that we are all parts of this wondrous place we're in. And oftentimes we can feel small and as though we have no impact and everything is just impossible to change. The Virgo moon reminds us to start small. Acts of kindness, they can be small ones, and they start with being kind to yourself, your family, your neighbors, the animals, people who seem rough or not kind to you. It's important to send them love, even if you don't want to do it in the moment. And we have lots of homework these days with people who seem very unlovable or unlikable in the world. So even just allowing moments of prayer and visioning and thinking about how usually, well, unfortunately, some of the cruelest, hardest people are people who are totally locked out of love. They don't know how to. They don't love themselves, obviously, and certainly can't reach to other people. So it's, even if we can just hope, pray, meditate, vision that love surrounds, fills the clouds, and pours down on the earth like gentle rain. It's all possible, even when it feels impossible. So Saturday the 15th, in the wee hours, the moon goes void, of course, and it enters the sign of Libra at 6:45 a.m., which really sets up a lovely weekend. I mean, the week was challenging if you were listening to the recording. It's a challenging week. It's asking us to be alert, pay attention to how we may fall short or miss opportunities to stretch and be more, vision more, believe more. But the weekend offers this sense of community, connection. And if some of us are feeling a little left out by Saturday evening, or as though there aren't possibilities, tap in to where you might find those possibilities. Tempers may be short in late afternoon, early evening on Sunday the 16th. But overall, this can be a very good day, especially the evening after, once we get into supper time and then the later evening. It's really wonderful for reaching out to people and stretching into the higher octave of love. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.